The early morning sun bathed the ancient walls of the Tower of London in a golden glow, casting long shadows across the cobblestone courtyard. Tourists were just beginning to gather, their excited chatter mingling with the distant sound of city traffic. But standing motionless amidst the growing crowd was Guard Thomas Lewis, a figure of unwavering discipline and tradition. Dressed in the iconic scarlet tunic and towering bearskin cap, Lewis stood as he had for the past 12 years, a living symbol of the Crown's history and honor. Having served 2 grueling tours in Iraq before joining the elite ranks of the Queen's Guard, Lewis had mastered the art of standing utterly still while remaining acutely aware of everything around him. Every shuffled footstep, every whispered word, every camera click, nothing escaped his well-trained senses. Over the years, he had faced every challenge imaginable: jeering tourists, sudden rainstorms, and even the occasional prankster trying to break his composure. Through it all, he had never flinched, never broken protocol. To the crowds, he was the perfect image of stoic strength, an unyielding pillar amidst the swirl of daily visitors. But beneath the gleaming medals on his chest and the rigid posture was a man shaped by years of service, sacrifice, and the silent memories of comrades lost on foreign sands. Lewis carried those memories with him every day, hidden behind the mask of duty. His boots were polished to perfection, his rifle held with ceremonial precision, and his gaze fixed straight ahead, cold, distant, and untouchable. As the morning unfolded, Lewis prepared for just another day of standing guard, maintaining the proud traditions of centuries past. He expected the usual flow of tourists posing for photos and children marveling at his uniform. For him, it was routine, another chapter in his long career of discipline and dedication. Little did he know, on this ordinary morning, a small visitor in the crowd would soon challenge everything he thought he knew about duty, courage, and the true meaning of honor. Among the steady stream of tourists flowing into the courtyard that morning, a small family stood out in a way that instantly caught Guard Lewis's sharp, practiced eye. Moving slowly through the crowd was a man and woman, their every step radiating the quiet tension of parents guarding something fragile. Between them walked their son, a thin boy of about 8, with large, curious eyes and a baseball cap pulled low over his bald head. His name, Lewis would later learn, was Liam. But even without knowing, Lewis could sense that this boy was different. It was in the way his parents hovered protectively at his sides, in the faint but determined smile Liam wore as he gazed in awe at the imposing tower walls, and in the almost electric ripple that passed through the watching tourists as they too noticed the boy's frailty. Liam's excitement was palpable. "Mom, look, he's real, and so tall." His voice, though thin and breathless, carried across the stones with a brightness that warmed even the most hardened onlookers. Lewis, though his gaze remained locked forward, caught every word. Over the years, he had grown skilled at filtering out background noise, but something about Liam's voice pierced through his mental defenses like sunlight through storm clouds. Nearby, a mother bent down to explain quietly to her own child, her voice soft, but edged with sadness. "Some children get very sick, sweetheart. That's why we have to be extra kind," another voice murmured. "Stage 4, they said." Poor kid. The crowd began to shift, instinctively giving space to Liam and his family as they drew nearer to Lewis's post. Tourists who moments before had jostled for photos now stepped back with quiet respect. An elderly woman dabbed her eyes with a tissue. A man in a suit wiped away a tear, pretending it was dust. Liam's father leaned down, his voice tight. "Remember, son, the guards are very serious. We watch from here, okay?" But Liam, full of innocent determination, took a small step forward. "I just want to see him up close, Dad. I promised I wouldn't get too close." And even as Lewis remained still as stone, a familiar tightness gripped his chest, the kind he hadn't felt since his battlefield days, as he watched the brave little boy's slow, careful approach. As Liam inched closer, his small hands clenched with determination, his gaze never wavered from Guard Lewis. The towering figure in scarlet and black seemed larger than life to the boy, yet Liam stood as tall as his frail frame would allow. "Dad," he whispered, his voice a little breathless, "do you think he would let me take a picture with him?" His father's face tightened, and he exchanged a quick, unspoken glance with Liam's mother, a look full of love, fear, and helplessness. "We can try, champ," his dad replied softly. "Just remember what the doctor said about not getting too tired." From behind his immobile posture, Lewis could hear every word. His training demanded stillness and silence. For 15 years, he had withstood every provocation, jeers from drunken tourists, loud noises, and even physical attempts to break his composure. But this was different. This was a sick child whose only wish was to share a moment with one of the Queen's elite guards. Liam's mother adjusted his cap, careful not to let the morning breeze chill his exposed scalp. "Remember, sweetheart," she murmured, "the guards have very important duties. We mustn't get too close." But Liam, with a spark of joy in his tired eyes, nodded firmly. "I know, Imoim. I just want to stand like him, tall and straight, like a real soldier." His tiny frame quivered slightly from the effort as he tried to mimic Lewis's rigid stance, and the sight hit Lewis harder than any battle he had ever faced. The courtyard had grown unusually quiet. Even the tourists seemed to sense the fragile weight of the moment, watching as Liam tried again and again to steady himself. Lewis's heart pounded beneath his uniform. His every instinct screamed to stay still. Protocol, duty, and tradition demanded it. But another voice, quieter yet stronger, rose inside him. A voice that remembered the faces of injured comrades in distant lands. A voice that whispered about the deeper meaning of service, to protect, to honor, to recognize true courage when it appeared before him. As Liam finally found his balance and flashed a shaky salute toward the motionless guard, Lewis felt the unrelenting pressure of years of rules and discipline colliding with the undeniable pull of compassion. His fingers twitched ever so slightly, a crack in the stone facade, as the battle within him reached its peak. As the family edged nearer to the palace gates, Liam's energy seemed to swell despite his visible exhaustion. His thin hand gripped his father's tighter, his eyes wide with awe as he stared at Guard Lewis standing firm in his brilliant red coat and basking hat. "M.O.M., Dad," Liam whispered, his voice light but urgent. "Do you think he'll let me take a picture with him?" "I promise I won't get too close." His parents exchanged a glance heavy with unspoken pain. They had prepared for this day, knowing how much it meant to Liam, yet hearing the hopeful tremor in his voice still caused their hearts to ache. His father crouched down, his voice soft but steady. "We can try, buddy. Just remember what we talked about. Don't push yourself too hard." Liam gave a tiny nod, determination flickering in his pale face. From his post, Guard Lewis remained a statue, yet every word reached his trained ears. In his 15 years of service, he had endured countless challenges meant to break his stoicism, tourists shouting, mocking, even poking at him, but nothing had unsettled him quite like this small boy's simple wish. His grip on his rifle tightened, not from anger, but from the swelling pressure inside his chest. His whole life had been discipline and duty, every action dictated by ancient protocol. Yet something about Liam's quiet bravery gnawed at the armor of his training. Liam's mother carefully straightened the boy's cap, tugging it gently over his smooth scalp. "You look like a real soldier now," she said, her voice catching slightly. Liam's face lit up. He took a wobbly step forward and stiffened his back as much as his weak muscles allowed. "Look, Dad, I'm standing just like him." The tourists, sensing the fragile weight of the scene, fell into hushed silence. Phones lowered, conversations faded, and all eyes turned to the little warrior struggling to mimic the imposing figure before him. Inside Lewis, a storm raged. Every regulation demanded he remain motionless. But watching Liam fight his own invisible battle just to stand tall cracked something deep within him. His pulse thundered in his ears. Was his duty only to tradition or to humanity too? As Liam managed a small salute, Lewis's resolve trembled. His fingers twitched, the first sign that perhaps today, protocol might bend to compassion. The courtyard held its collective breath as Liam, his small frame quivering from the effort, tried to hold his salute steady. His face, pale and drawn, still shone with a joy so pure it seemed to light up the grey London morning. And in that moment, Guard Lewis made a decision that would ripple through every heart watching. With a slow, deliberate motion precise as every drill he'd performed in 15 years of service, Lewis shifted his stance. A gasp echoed through the crowd as the stoic guard, known for his unyielding discipline, turned to face Liam directly. His boots clicked sharply against the stone, the sound slicing through the heavy silence. Liam's eyes went wide with wonder. "M.O.M., Dad." He moved. He breathed, his voice trembling with excitement. His parents could only nod, tears already welling in their eyes. Guard Lewis took a step forward, not just a physical movement, but a breaking of centuries-old protocol. He lowered himself to one knee, bringing his towering presence down to the boy's level. The crowd was utterly still, some wiping tears, others too moved even to speak. "Hello, young man," Lewis said, his voice calm yet carrying the weight of something profound. "I see you've been standing very bravely, Liam's smile grew, despite the exhaustion beginning to overtake him. I tried to stand like you, he whispered. Lewis reached up with his gloved hand, and, in a gesture that stunned the onlookers, carefully unpinned a shining medal from his chest. He held it out to Liam. This is for courage under difficult conditions, he said solemnly. And today, I think you've earned it more than I ever have. The crowd erupted into spontaneous applause, warm and heartfelt. Even the usually reserved tourists joined in, clapping and crying in equal measure. Guard Lewis gave Liam a crisp salute. You are one of us now, soldier, he said with a rare, warm smile. Liam straightened up, fatigue forgotten for a heartbeat, and returned the salute perfectly. It was a moment no one there would ever forget. As Guard Lewis rose back to his full height, returning to his post with ceremonial precision, the crowd stood in stunned silence for a beat longer before another wave of applause swept through the courtyard. Parents lifted their children onto their shoulders so they could see the little boy who had just been honored like a true soldier. Liam, now clutching the medal pin proudly on his jacket, beamed up at his parents, his earlier fatigue momentarily forgotten. His mother knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face, whispering, You did it, sweetheart. You really did it. His father, still filming with shaking hands, could barely find his voice as he choked out, So proud of you, son. All around them, tourists from every corner of the world wiped their eyes and exchanged smiles. A young Japanese couple bowed respectfully toward Liam. An elderly woman from America dabbed at her tears with a tissue, whispering, God bless the brave boy. Even the normally stoic palace staff watched with softened expressions, recognizing that they had witnessed something far beyond routine ceremony. As the family turned to leave, the crowd parted for them like a royal procession. People reached out to gently pat Liam's shoulder or offer him high fives. A teenage boy handed Liam a small British flag he'd been waving, saying, For you, little soldier. Liam accepted it with wide-eyed wonder, his smile brighter than the morning sun glinting of the palace gates. At the front, Guard Lewis had already resumed his rigid stance, but something had shifted. Though his posture was as sharp and unmoving as tradition demanded, those who looked closely could see the faintest hint of warmth in his eyes, a silent acknowledgement of what had just transpired. He was no longer just a symbol of unyielding duty, but a living testament to the power of compassion over protocol. And as the sun climbed higher over Buckingham Palace, its golden rays seemed to bless them all, a reminder that sometimes the bravest acts are the ones guided not by rulebooks, but by the heart. As Liam and his family disappeared into the crowd, their hearts full and the new medal shining against his little jacket, the onlookers remained frozen in place, almost reluctant to let the magic of the moment slip away. People exchanged quiet words, wiping at their eyes, while others stood in thoughtful silence. It wasn't just a child's dream fulfilled or a soldier's compassionate act, it was a reminder to everyone present that true strength lies in humanity, not in rigid rules. Videos and photos of the scene began circulating within minutes. Strangers who had never met Liam or Guard Lewis shared the story online, their captions filled with words like, faith in humanity restored, and this brought me to tears. And now, dear viewer, I ask you, what would you have done in Guard Lewis's position? When is it right to bend tradition for the sake of compassion? Share your thoughts down in the comments, because these are the conversations that help us grow as a community. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit the like button. It lets us know that you want more uplifting stories like this one. And be sure to subscribe, because tomorrow at the same time, we'll bring you another powerful tale from the Royal Guard, stories that go beyond the stiff uniforms and stoic faces. Stories about real people showing real courage and kindness. And if you're watching this from somewhere special, let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. It warms our hearts to see how these stories reach every corner of the world. Also, make sure to hit the bell icon so you won't miss the next video. Trust me, you'll want to be here when we share what happened when another guard faced an equally heart-wrenching decision. Check out the videos now appearing on your screen for more incredible moments of discipline, duty, and unexpected compassion from the Queen's Guard. Because sometimes, it's not the grandeur of the palace or the weight of tradition that leaves the biggest impact, but the quiet, powerful choices made in a single, extraordinary moment. Until next time, remember, real honor isn't just about standing tall. It's about knowing when to kneel, when to reach out, and when to let your heart lead the way.